I'm Alex McPherson. I'm Senior Vice President and Director of Measurement at Methods and Mastery. I do all kinds of work, from creating the data infrastructure for how measurement works, making brand recommendations or strategy recommendations, ultimately whatever a client needs to help them understand what is going on and best achieve their goals. Starting into it, I've had an expertise in social media intelligence, but there's a whole broad spectrum of digital marketing, comms and out of home, and the data marketing communications program really helped me expand my worldview and feel more confident in representing the whole spectrum of digital marketing. I love just the sense of archaeology and the puzzle finding that comes with data. How do you dive into it and uncover the details to represent a full and comprehensive story? I love the intro course because it really helped. It just showcased the breadth of digital marketing and data marketing and marketing in general, in a way that I didn't always realize existed. Data is truly a component in everything that marketers are doing these days. And if you can know how to harness that data, you're going to be eternally prepared to really handle any challenge and situation.
My name is John McPherson. I'm currently a freelance writer and am retired.
It was fun for both of us to be at WVU at the same time in ways. It's exciting to be a third generation West Virginia University journalism school student. There's a lot of history and memory there.
Yeah, my mother, his grandmother, was in the first class with P.I. Reed when he founded the journalism school. And so I naturally took after her. My father was an engineer who desperately wanted me to be an engineer, but eventually understood that if I became an engineer, people would die. Planes would fall out of the sky, buildings would collapse. But I had a writing teacher who went to him one day and said, your son can really make a living writing. So let him go to journalism school, let him follow his mother's footsteps. And then Alex wound up doing that, but it was an opportunity that I'd never had. I never got a chance to really see my mother in that sort of a situation where she was still in school and still learning. And it was nice to be able to also relate to some of the same professors in different ways. My experience in IMC, as I was entering my second and third course, I changed careers. And I went to work for a large corporation. And I remember just coming out of my second course with IMC, sitting in my job interview over in Ohio with the president of communications and the vice president of communications, and saying, asking, what sort of social media presence do you have? And I remember specifically the president of communications at the time saying, we don't really believe in social media. Our CEO thinks that Twitter thing is just a flash in the pan. But I continued taking the IMC course. And the more I learned and the more I discussed with them what I was learning, and the more I was able to present ideas and options to them of various things I was learning through the IMC program, by the time I left the company about 11 years later, we had an Instagram and a Twitter. We had developed internal video channels. I was, by that time, in charge of one of the entire areas of communications, and what we had really focused on was a multi-platform way of reaching all of our employees, whether they were employees in offices or employees who were in trucks in the field on a regular basis. None of that, I firmly believe, would have been possible without my experience through the IMC program and what I learned in the IMC program. And this is a Fortune 100 company that we're talking about. One thing I really, really enjoyed was the way the course is set up for interaction with your fellow students, for asking questions, being responsible for answering so many questions, the online interpersonal communications that we had. I can honestly say that I think as a result of the way the courses were designed, that by the time the course was finished, I knew my fellow students in those courses better than 90% of the students that I ever had in classes while I was in an on-campus structured course.
I had really the same experience. I loved those discussion boards, and all of my peers and classmates were in vastly different industries than I was. So I got to learn not just the context of the course from the professor, but from my peers as well. Just an opportunity that I never really thought I would have.
And they were not only in different careers, they were of all ages, all cultural backgrounds, a much broader mix than you would get on a regular college campuses. In most cases, there were people in my classes from other countries. And it was fascinating to relate to them and to learn from them. And a number of those people, including the professors as well, are still friends of mine. We still keep in touch on social media. I found the support from the university and the support from all of the professors to be amazing. One of the courses that we were involved with, we were supposed to do a deep analysis of a specific brand and explain why that brand has the outreach program and the marketing concept that they have. And I happened to have Taco Bell. And we were about 7 or 8 weeks into the program, and we were running up our final presentations to give. I woke up one morning and Taco Bell had changed their marketing. They had changed their logo, they had gone to no mas from what it had been previously. And I remembered, this is horrible, because I hadn't even considered that they might be changing their entire brand marketing approach. And here I had thought their previous approach was pretty good. And I remember calling my professor to ask him what on earth I do. And he answered the phone. And he was at his grandson's softball game on a Saturday afternoon, and he answered the phone. And I said, I don't want to interrupt you, maybe we can talk later. He said, no, go ahead and talk now. And we talked it out. And I thought, but that's just how approachable and how responsive the faculty was. What I found most beneficial from the IMC program is when I first started, I was working as a consultant for a company that worked with major corporations all over the country, developing community advisory panels and also working in crisis communications. The IMC program opened up to me the idea of being able to reach out to the various cohorts and the various demographics of all the individuals in the communities that we were working in. Every community was different. Every community had a different makeup, different culture. And the IMC program allowed me to analyze that, evaluate that, and we wound up actually creating various methods of social media that we had never previously thought of to be able to reach out to those various communities for those companies. Even if it was the same company in 4 or 5 different locations, whether it was one in New Jersey, one in Pennsylvania, one in Oklahoma, we could reach out, look at those various communities and build a better relationship network for those companies to get along better and relate better to those communities. Later, I went to work for one large corporation that had tens of thousands of people in 14 different states. And it was much the same. We had people who did one kind of work, and we had other people who had a completely separate, different kind of work that they were doing for the company. But we had to get them all on the same page. We wanted all of those people in the company to understand what our culture was, what our goals were, what our ethics were, and our standards were. And it allowed us to look at the depth and breadth of the people that we had and develop ways that we could use internal social media, internal newsletters, internal video, use all of those cross-platform marketing methods internally to make everyone understand what our company was about and really have us all driving and pulling the same way. In terms of, you asked about what it was with Alex. When I was starting the program, my son was still in college. And as I went through the program, I know I was telling him about it and how interesting it was and what I was learning. When I was doing my capstone course, he had already graduated and he was working for a public relations company. The capstone course just happened to deal with trying to reach a certain cohort, which he happened to be in at the time, in order to convince them to relate to a certain company. In our case, it was the Red Cross. They wanted the Red Cross to appeal to a certain generation, a certain cohort in the ages of 20 to 25, 27. So I got together a group of my son and his friends, and I created my own advisory panel to relate to them as I was going through and doing all the other research. I got feedback from them and bounce back from them on, was this successful? Did this interest you? Should I tweak this? Is this something I should throw away? And I think that it was almost infectious. I think that he became interested in, because he was already involved in PR and data management, it kind of sparked the interest in the data management and it's with him. And right about that time is where the digital marketing course was created, and the data management course.
Yeah, when it came to data marketing communications, I essentially made that decision. Oh, well, what my dad did was so interesting with IMC. I think it's my time to sort of dip a toe into the water and see what I can do with it.
Mm-hmm. And it was really developing that little advisory group of all of his various friends was extremely valuable to me. Because it's one thing to look and to, as you say, do the archaeology and dig and get the data and look at it and get it off the internet and do some studies and even do some blind studies through surveys, but to actually have those human beings in a room or on our back porches. In my case, I had them on the back porch and sit there and just toss out ideas and say, what does this do for you? And get various feedback from people of various cultures too, and various cultural backgrounds, and see what really worked across a broad board, and then insert that into your capstone project. It was extremely helpful, and it was fun.